and he gets visited by three ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And they show him how mean he's been and what will happen to him in the future if he doesn't change his ways. But instead of looking at the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future this morning, I thought we could look at how the Christ of Christmas past, present, and future, and how Jesus Christ has been with us in our past and can be with us in the present and the future. Right, although Jesus was born in very humble circumstances to a young girl, this was going to be one of the most important events in history. But at the time, hardly anyone knew that it was happening. As far as we know, the shepherds were the first visitors to the manger from their nearby fields. And then the wise men, they visited months later when the child was back in the house. God didn't want to come with splendor and majesty, and he didn't want to force his son onto the people. Even when he was born, there wasn't a proper room for him. Throughout the Bible, we see that it's up to people to make their own decision. It's their own choice whether to accept or reject his son Jesus. After his birth, as we know, Jesus would grow up, and then after doing lots of wonderful miracles and teaching, he'd die on the cross, and 3 days later come back to life again, and then ascend into heaven where he is now. These are all historical events. They were things that happened in the past. They changed the lives of millions of people and have changed the lives of billions of people since. When we look back at our own past, we can often see how God has worked in our lives, although often we don't see it at the time. Many of you will have your own stories of how God has impacted your lives in the past. Or maybe Jesus hasn't been a part of your life in the past, or he has, but you haven't known it. But that doesn't mean he can't be with you in the present and the future. Right, so now we're looking at what Jesus means to us today in the present. We looked at the birth and death of Jesus that happened in the past, but Jesus can also be with us in our lives today and part of everything we do. Jesus was given the name Emmanuel, which means God with us. So Jesus is God with us. During Advent, we've had the theme, with us. And as mentioned by Tim on Sunday, God cares about having a relationship with us. Now, before Jesus went up to heaven, he said in Matthew 28:20, I will be with you always to the end of the age. And he also said in John 10:10, which is my favorite verse, one of them, I have come that you might have life, life in all its fullness. Having Jesus in our lives helps us to have and enjoy a full life in the present, just as God intended it. Knowing Jesus is with us all the time helps us to celebrate the good times and to get through the bad times. God doesn't want us to live boring lives. He wants us to enjoy life. He wants us to have fun. He's given us a wonderful world to enjoy. When we look to the future, we don't know what lies ahead of us. Only one person knows our future, and that's God. We might have plans for our own lives, but they might not be what God has planned for us. Joseph and Mary thought they'd got everything planned out for their lives, but God changed that. We need to trust God for our future because he's got everything in hand, even though at times it might not seem like it. He knows what job we're going to do when we're older. He knows if or who we're going to marry in the future. In Jeremiah 29:11, the Bible says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Now, to prosper doesn't just mean financially, but in all aspects of our life. Whatever happens in our future, it's better if we can share it with Jesus, because as mentioned before, it's much easier going through the bad times with him than without him. Jesus also talked about his future, that one day, we don't know when, he'll be coming back again. That's another thing we looked at during Advent time. Will we be ready for him when he comes? So in conclusion, this morning we've looked at how important Jesus' birth, life and death was in the past, how he's been with us in the past. We've looked at how he's with us today in the present, and how he'll be with us in the future from now to eternity. Now, at the end of Dickens' Christmas Carol, Scrooge decides that he needs to change his life for the good. And from then on, his new life becomes much happier for him. And the same is true for us. When we ask Jesus into our lives, we have a new, better life with him. So even if Jesus hasn't been a part of your life in the past, he can still be a part of your life in the present and the future if you only ask him.